It didn't change our name again. Awesome.
A new hope.
Yeah, so if you guys are listening live right now, just chill for 1 second while I fix that. And if you're watching on the replay, well, I can't fix it. Okay. I don't know what is up with YouTube. All right, there, I switched the title anyway. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of BCC Live. My name is Kevin Skipper, and tonight we're joined by co-host Jay DeLuco and special guest Alex Clark from CASAA. Alex has been on before one time, and we're happy to have him back. Matt and Jay are both traveling. Matt and Nick are both traveling.
I'm here. I swear to God.
And they're going to be with us tonight. In fact, I don't think Nick will be with us for a few weeks. He said he's got quite a lot of travel coming up. So, and I know that Matt was on his way to the UK for the expo in Birmingham. So, yeah. We have Alex on with us tonight. We might have another special guest with us next week. I'll let you guys... Well, no, you know what? I won't tell you. It'll be a surprise. You have to join us next week to find out who it might be. That way, if it's not the person I'm thinking and I change it, you won't know you won't know the difference anyway. So, yeah, good to have you with us, Alex. Tonight we're going to be talking about the 11 Democrat senators who sent a letter to Dr. Gottlieb, the new FDA Commissioner. I'm going to kind of read that, break it down a little bit, get some analysis from the three of us, and then Alex can give us an update on what's going on from the consumer standpoint and how things are going with CASAA. So before we get started, Jay, what's been up, man?
Same as usual, working. I am excited, though, today. I actually scored some VIP tickets to Extreme. You remember them?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like them.
Yeah. They all grew up right down the street here, and they're playing down in Worcester in September. So I grabbed some VIP tickets, and I'll be going to that. That'll be fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's been up with you, Alex, since the last time we've seen you?
Oh, man. How long ago was I on this show?
I don't know. It's been a while.
A year,
we're
probably.
At episode 42, so I don't know when that was, but it was a while ago.
Yeah, man. Lots has happened. Continuing to work at moving the ball forward. It's kind of hard for me to juggle what I can talk about, what I can't talk about, what I'm supposed to talk about at any given moment. But I can say that lots of work is being done in D.C. and at the state level, and lots of local stuff going on. So it's kind of a whirlwind of nonsense.
Well, maybe we'll throw some stuff out at you, and you tell us what you think about it. And if you can't tell us what you think about it, then that's fine too.
I can tell you what I think about it. I just may not be able to tell you what exactly is going on.
Oh, that's perfect. That's fine.
If it's what I think it is.
Yeah. Just say I cannot comment on that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna delve right into first of all, hey everyone in the chat, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. If you're live with us and you haven't hit the like button, please do so. If you're watching on the replay, please hit the like button. We appreciate that. I think I saw a few hey gangs. What's up? Amy, Rob, Costello West is with us. David Brooks. So what's up, guys? We appreciate you joining us live. Max Kim, what's going on? We're going to start tonight with this letter that I don't know if you guys have seen it or not yet, but let me go over to the full monitor. And actually, I posted yesterday on Facebook, I got a notification that there was a news alert for Scott Gottlieb, and it was a partial article. I guess they want you to subscribe and or pay for a service or something to read the whole thing, but I couldn't read the whole thing. I just read the whole paragraph, but I thought it was worth sharing. And today, Alex actually commented on that with a link to a PDF of the actual letter that was sent. 11 Senate Democrats sent a letter to Dr. Scott Gottlieb, And let's just go over to it real quick, and we'll read it for you and let you guys, you can pause the video if you need to read it, or I'll also post a link in the description so that you can go to it. But Jay, you've had a chance to read it by now for sure, and I know that Alex has. So I'm just going to read it real quick. It'll take a few minutes, but it's worth getting through. It's not that long. So May 19, 2017, to Dr. Scott Gottlieb. It says, "Dear Dr. Gottlieb," which is one of the titles of our show tonight. "Given your recent confirmation as Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, we write to encourage you to prioritize agency efforts to prevent tobacco-related disease and keep tobacco products out of the hands of children. We have serious concerns regarding the recent decision by FDA to delay all upcoming compliance deadlines under the final tobacco deeming rule, reflected by the May 10, 2017 guidance titled 3-month extension of certain tobacco product compliance deadlines related to the final deeming rule." That was repetitive. "We urge the administration to stand up to special interest and reconsider its decision to delay all compliance deadlines set forth in the tobacco deeming rule. Such delays will have dangerous consequences and hamper the ability of FDA to carry out its mandate to protect the public's health." Maybe we can talk about that for just a second. "We urge the administration to stand up to special interest and reconsider its decision to delay all compliance deadlines." What do you guys think they're talking about here when they're mentioning special interest?
Well, who do they think they're talking about?
Yeah, who do
or
they think
are
they're talking about, and who are they actually talking about?
I mean, special interest is used, I think, generally broadly. It's an easy phrase to score some political points. In this case, they're talking about the tobacco companies. They're talking about any big enough vapor company that can afford a lobbyist. It's generally anybody that has the money that you need in order to influence policy in DC. That's special interest. And trust me, all of these people have special interests,
Right.
In their camp.
I think it's funny that any politician points out special interest when they all have pork barrel legislation that they want to do for their own home districts, which are all special interest essentially.
Yeah,
But I think they're clearly talking about. They think they're talking about the tobacco industry. I think.
Yeah, it's
And pharma.
probably largely implied. Yeah.
Or just the tobacco industry. All right. So
Yeah, typically they don't talk about grassroots industries like ours which is still largely grassroots. It's still largely a cottage industry. They're certainly not attempting to put us in a bad light. No, they know that by saying special interests, people who read that letter are going to think about big tobacco.
Well, they're benefiting from this conflation that has happened over the years. So where, people who like us who have been following this for many years and understand the difference between a massive company versus, the small to medium businesses that make up the, most of the vapor industry, they're relying on the public's misperception that all vapor products are now big tobacco. Right. And so even though we might think they don't intend to do it, they're certainly benefiting from that conflation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's pop back over real quick and we'll continue on with paragraph 2 of this bullshit. On May 10th, 2016, nearly 7 years after passage of the Bipartisan Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act of 2009, the TCA, giving the agency such authority, FDA finalized the deeming rule to establish jurisdiction over categories of tobacco products, including electronic cigarettes, cigars, hookah, and pipe tobacco. This oversight was long overdue. The booming, previously unregulated e-cigarette industry was often described as a Wild West, quote unquote, of consumer products, and in recent years has increasingly and deliberately targeted children. E-cigarette manufacturers regularly use candy and fruit flavors such as cotton candy and cookies and cream, as well as other marketing strategies to attract children and teens, and have been effective in doing so. In December 2016, the U.S. Surgeon General published a report revealing that e-cigarettes are the most commonly used tobacco product among teens, surpassing conventional cigarettes. Further studies have found that more than 85% of the current youth e-cigarette users use flavored e-cigarettes, and that flavors are the leading cause of initiation. I want to come back over for that real quick because I had an urge, I don't know what it was, 2 nights ago for ice cream. I couldn't get it out of my head. I got up at 9 o'clock at night and drove to Publix. You know what flavor of ice cream I picked? It wasn't tobacco or menthol. You know what it was?
Damn it, you stole my joke.
It was cookies and cream. Cookies and cream is what I wanted, and that's what I bought.
That's
As a
my
40-year-old man,
That's my favorite standard issue ice cream.
Mine
cookies.
too, and that's what I went and got. So again, I know we harp on this, and people are probably sick of hearing about it, but these politicians, man, with this flavors and attracting children thing, it just drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. What do you guys think about that paragraph of
Well, it worked. It worked with the original MSA back in whenever the hell that happened. I don't know. I'm sure Alex knows better than I.
I think it was late 90s.
Mid 90s.
Yeah, so they were attacking the whole Joe Camel thing and all that, the cartoon characters and all that.
Actually true,
and it was effective. It was very effective. So they're just leaning on the same old playbook, even though it doesn't really apply in this instance because they're strictly talking about flavors. Mm-hmm. And it's demonstrably true that adults like flavors too. And I kind of hate that term flavors because what the hell does that mean? Tobacco is a flavor.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure I'm sick of it, but I just this is my shocked face at this point.
Yeah.
Well, the truly nefarious thing here is that I may be getting the saying wrong, but like every lie is rooted in some truth.
Right.
And so there is some partial truth to what they're saying in that, well, first of all, I mean, there's a variety of flavors. Even if you're shopping for an e-cigarette out of the back of somebody's Cadillac, there's going to be flavors there. I don't care who you are or what age you are, that's probably going to interest you. But the part that they're not reporting in this letter is the fact that young people who are trying these products, again, keep in mind that this is based on, largely based on ever use or past 30-day use, as in once in a 30-day period. There's there's nothing on the survey that monitors regular use. Second thing to remember is that something like less than 2% of young people who are initiating on a flavored vapor product are actually using a product that contains nicotine.
Right. So it's not even a tobacco
product. Are using zero nic e-liquid. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Those are the people that, and this is kind of not an evidence-based statement here, but those are the young people that are likely to treat this thing like a passing fad.
Don't worry. Their whole letter is not evidence-based.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's partially, like I said, every lie is based in some truth. So, yeah, they just twist it really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the most, I wouldn't say shocking, but the most gut-wrenching, I think, aspect of that paragraph was in recent years has increasingly and deliberately targeted children. I wonder where they're getting that from. I don't know if they're seeing some of these labels from non-scrupulous companies out there who are putting cartoon characters and stuff on their bottle and all the stuff.
Well, it's funny they don't mention the cartoon characters; they mention the flavors.
Right, I know.
Yeah, and to my mind, it's the cartoony labels that are a far better target from their perspective than the actual flavors.
So if there were a label out there that was pure black on white and it said cotton candy flavor or cookies and cream flavor.
Yeah, don't steal my branding.
Well, an important thing to point out is that no matter what the label looks like, they are constructing this framework for the conversation that it's flavors that are marketing to kids. So, I mean, you can, we talk, people in the industry talk a lot about, IP infringement and appropriating marketing that has been focus tested to attract children and so on and so forth. You can get rid of all of that. And as long as you've got something other than tobacco, as long as you've got something other than tobacco flavor, it's marketing to children.
Right.
And we might get into that a little bit later on if we talk about California. But all flavors are on the chopping block right now.
Yeah, I don't. For me, and I actually did a whole dissertation in law school about copyright infringement. For me, that's more of a civil issue, and that's up to the companies who are being infringed for them to chase that down. It's not. it's not us. But if they're infringing a cereal, for instance, like you said, a cereal that has been specifically designed and has studies and stuff to show that kids react more to it, and then they're putting that on e-liquid bottles, which are intended for adults, yeah, I have a huge problem with that. The flavor of the cereal itself, I have no problem with, because again, other than cookies and cream, ice cream, I also like cereals as well, flavored cereals. So, and again, 40-year-old man here. I mean, so yeah, I guess we've kind of beaten that horse to a death. So we're going to hop back over and just continue on with the letter. There's not too much more left of it. I think we're on the letter now. Yeah, are we? Let's check. Yeah, we were. Sorry, guys. While more research is needed, evidence from several longitudinal studies suggests that e-cigarette use is strongly associated, quote unquote, with the use of other tobacco products among youth and young adults, including conventional cigarettes. E-cigarettes can expose users to harmful chemicals, including nicotine, which is highly addictive and can have adverse effects on the developing adolescent brain, such as lowering impulse control and affecting learning and attention. E-cigarettes are not the only newly deemed tobacco product that pose a threat to young people. High school boys now smoke cigars at a higher rate than regular cigarettes. In the final rule, FDA states, quote unquote, that completely switching from combusted cigarettes to e-cigarettes may reduce the risk of tobacco-related disease for individuals currently using combusted tobacco products, end quote. Any potential public health benefit of these products, however, will only be realized if e-cigarettes lead current smokers to quit using combustible tobacco and if they do not attract new tobacco users. For these reasons and more, consistent with statute, FDA carefully crafted the deeming rule to protect the public health while establishing a regulatory scheme for all newly deemed tobacco products. To accomplish this goal, FDA set forth a series of deadlines to give manufacturers a reasonable window of time to come into compliance with the requirements of the rule. These include adding warning statements to products with nicotine, listing ingredients, and submitting all products to FDA for review. We believe the rule should have gone further and banned flavors and marketing practices that are known to attract children and teens. For many of the requirements put forth in the rule, manufacturers have been given 2 full years to comply. We see no evidence to indicate that additional time is necessary or warranted, and urge you to stand strong against industry pushback and fully enforce the FDA rules as written. So we'll pause there for a second. There's a little bit more left, and then we'll cover who the people were that signed this letter. But I wanted to, I had a few thoughts about this. What do you guys, as I'm reading it, I know you're probably not able to remember everything, but hopefully you have it pulled up somewhere close by, or maybe you can. But what do you think about this, these assertions that the FDA carefully crafted?
Yeah.
No.
If only it were that simple. I mean, if what they talk about it like, oh, all we have to do is submit our product for review, register, and put warning labels on. If only it were that simple. I wouldn't have a problem with these regulations if that was the case. I could just send them a bottle of my freaking e-liquid and just do one of these and keep working. No, it's not that easy.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful. I'm somewhat confident that Dr. Gottlieb can see through this. And one of the things that one of the many, every sentence in that paragraph is just horse shit. But the FDA did not carefully craft regulations for these products. They shoehorned vapor products into the existing regulations for cigarettes.
Right.
There's nothing careful about that.
I think that is the most hypocritical aspect of these 2 paragraphs that I just read. The most hypocritical aspect is that combustible tobacco cigarettes, which everyone, 100% of people, well, 99% of people know will kill you, were left untouched and are completely legal. That's just incredibly hypocritical. There are no hoops that cigarettes have to jump through to come to market. They're already here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, they're paying to play.
Well, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids is one of the organizations that argued for the 2007 predicate date. And they ironically used very similar logic that we're, one of our points is that, if you force this industry out of business, you're just creating a massive black market that you'll have absolutely no regulatory control over.
Right.
So, I don't know what the difference is now between, forcing the e-cigarettes onto a black market versus combustible cigarettes. It's kind of baffling.
Well, and I think that this also goes to show how out of touch they are. I mean, the FDA didn't just push the regulations by 3 months, and they didn't push the dates in December to June either last 6 months ago to give the industry more time. They're either completely out of touch with what really is going on, or their staffers aren't filling them in and briefing them on what's happening. The FDA gave a specific reason for this 3-month shift is because they need additional time in some pending litigation against them. And the second reason was to give Dr. Gottlieb, some time to get his feet wet at the FDA as commissioner and see what direction he wants to take. So it's not like the FDA is just saying, "Oh, we're going to give you more time. Oh, we're going to give you more time." They had valid reasons, and I think those reasons were, if these 11 senators and or their staff would have just spent 10 minutes looking, they could have found those valid reasons why the extension was granted.
I don't see this as...
the reasons are out there. It's. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Am I still on? Okay. The reasons are out there. I mean, it's plain as day what they should be considering and working toward, which is a reasonable set of regulations for the vapor industry. But there is still one thing to consider is that you still have hundreds of employees that are at the FDA, and they're holdovers from the previous administration. So we've got a new FDA commissioner that's sympathetic to all of this and understanding, but he's also working with a culture of FDA employees that have been pushing this abstinence only approach for years, and so he's also working against that.
Well, when you have career bureaucrats, they have to understand that when a new administration comes in, there's going to be different views on leadership, and it's probably not going to be consistent with what the previous administration's views were. So I don't think anyone at the FDA wants, the night that Donald Trump was elected, I don't think anyone had, hopefully they didn't have any misconceptions about what was going to happen and things were going to change at the FDA. And one of the things I've been saying the last couple of weeks is, and tell me whether or not you agree with this, guys, the FDA is not unlike any other administrative part of the government, whereas the Obama administration had one view on the way things should be run, and the Trump administration has a completely different view on the way things should be run. And when leadership comes in that's appointed by Trump and is confirmed by Congress, they're not going to want to fight battles that they don't even agree with. I'm assuming that most of the people that Trump is appointing are fairly consistent and in line with his point of view. That point of view is less regulation, less taxes, less government, more personal freedom, or at least to some extent, because he's a Republican, it should be that. But the less regulation part of it, it shouldn't be a shocker to former employees at the FDA under the Obama administration that are still there now under the Trump administration, that there's going to be a change in philosophy. And the change in philosophy at the outset, it's going to be, why am I, Scott Gottlieb, or anyone else, or HHS guy whose name just literally flew out of my mind,
Tom Price.
Why are we fighting these battles? Why are we having to explain what the previous administration's leadership in the Secretary of Health and Human Services and FDA Commissioner, why are we fighting their battles? We don't even agree with these regulations. Do you guys think that that's an accurate assessment or no?
I mean, yeah, to some degree. I mean, you're right. They are in a leadership position. It falls on them, I think, to set the tone, move the ball, whatever metaphor you want to use. They certainly have a certain amount of authority to do that. But it's still within the agency. I think they're going to encounter some resistance. I mean, Center for Tobacco Products is a it's a division of FDA. So it has its own leadership. It has its own people making policy and coming up with things. I mean, I'm kind of curious, with the timing of that the battery safety flyer that came out. It was kind of interesting to see them at least acknowledge the sort of current products and not some mythical product in the future, not some mythical closed system. That was the part that was interesting to me. Also, the fact that their first version of it was wildly inaccurate and probably put people at higher risk of battery failure. But I don't know, if there's something to be read into the timing of that being released, within the past month or so, and the changing of the guard at the FDA. So it's again, you're right. The heads of these departments are in a leadership position, can influence policy. It may kind of end up taking a bit more time, and some of the existing staff, if they really do have such an ideological opposition to what the new leadership is doing, they're probably going to leave or need to be let go.
Right, I agree. Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to anybody who's worked in corporate America, I mean, above and beyond, policy, you also have to look at your day-to-day operations. You have to look at employee morale. The FDA is a business just like anything else in that respect. So leadership in these organizations has to take into account the morale of their employees. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to get anything done. So a lot of these things that happen, a lot of these policy changes have to be, from their perspective, they have to be implemented slowly. These changes have to happen over a period of time. Otherwise, you're going to shock your employees into, analysis paralysis. They're not going to be able to do their jobs because they're going to be too busy trying to digest all these changes all at once. So, that's just something that people don't tend to think about when they talk about these government organizations.
And actually, to dovetail on what you just said, within the agency, things have to happen at a digestible pace. I think the same is true for the public. If Scott Gottlieb comes in and takes charge and starts, sort of a slash and burn campaign with tobacco regulations, there will absolutely be an uproar. And it'll come from all of the body parts groups and the campaign, and they've already started to ramp up their, all this stuff we're hearing about flavors now. That is part of their plan to push back. Yeah.
Yeah, but I certainly think that at some point there's going to be enough stuff presented to Price and Gottlieb where they're going to reflect on it and they're going to say, yeah, screw this shit. We don't agree with this stuff. We're not going to continue fighting Obama's battles. Let's scrap this, and we'll talk about this after I finish reading the letter and we cover who the senators were, but I just wanted to bring that point up. So let's go back over real quick and we'll finish just the last little paragraph and discuss that. It says, your new role as FDA Commissioner comes with enormous responsibility to protect the public health. Again, I would just want to bring this up while we're talking about it. All of the public health, all of the Americans, not just teenagers, not just those in the 18 to 21 category, but all Americans' public health. Given the public health threat posed by youth e-cigarette use, it is imperative that the FDA commit to the original compliance deadlines for the tobacco deeming rule. Every day that these products stay on the market with no assessment of their risk, we continue to put America's youth in harm's way. And again, they're pounding at the youth. And then it says, sincerely, Patty Murray, Jeffrey A. Merkley, I don't know how to say that, Sherrod Brown, Tom Udall, Edward Markey, Sheldon Whitehouse, Jack Reed, Elizabeth Warren, Richard Durbin, Richard Blumenthal, and Al Franken. That was clearly a stamp. Awesome. Good of him to take the time to sign it. Let's go back over to us real quick. And
both of my senators, by the way.
Which two are yours?
Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey.
Nice.
Yep. And by the way, as an aside, not a small aside, Elizabeth Warren is already considered the front runner for the Democratic nomination in the next presidential election.
So yeah, I mean, you can see that they're pounding home the youth, and again, they're hypocritical in the same paragraph. Yet again, talking about his responsibilities, being Gottlieb's as FDA Commissioner, is to protect the public health. It's not just to protect the youth's public health and the remote possibility that they may at some point start vaping. That's not a specific finite goal of the FDA. That's not his role as FDA Commissioner. as FDA Commissioner is on a macro level, the public health of the entire population of the United States. So
I want to I want to take a really short step up onto my soapbox and just point out that the this whole policy, and I don't know exactly where it is stated, but somebody has specifically pointed out that there is emphasis on protecting the youth in the Tobacco Control Act, and whenever I hear this rhetoric about protect the kids, to me, it rings deeply, deeply cynical, and it's almost kind of cruel. It's a very dark perspective on this entire tobacco thing. To sink your resources into protecting the children and focus largely on that, hypothetical or theorized return on investment of protecting the kids, preventing them from initiating cigarettes, it means that you've essentially written off all of the adults.
Right.
And, the kids get the special treatment because they're young and innocent, but the adults get the quit or die. And just to me, that seems, it's just bordering on cruel.
I would agree with you.
It should be as simple as the fact that they've already made selling vapor products to the youth illegal.
Yeah.
Their job at that point should be done. Why all this rhetoric? Step up enforcement. If you consider it a problem, step up enforcement.
Right.
But legislators have nothing to do with enforcement. Their tool is more legislation.
Right.
So
Well,
that's what they're going to do.
The FDA is charged with enforcement. Local health departments are responsible for enforcement. That's exactly right. And I think one of the points that maybe I don't know, we don't bring it up too much, but to talk about this as if vapor companies and tobacco companies are somehow getting a free pass to sell these products to kids, that doesn't. No, the law says you have to be 18 plus. In some places it's 21 and over. In a lot of municipalities it's 21 and over. So really what you're saying is that the people who are tasked with enforcement aren't doing their job.
Amen.
And that's a fault of the FDA.
Yeah. But we've seen that throughout all sorts of industries. And I think that that's ultimately why, because as you said, the FDA is tasked with enforcement. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another reason why they've been pushing off dates. And I'm not just talking about this latest 90-day push off. I'm talking about over the last 5 years. They're constantly pushing off dates because I think deep down they do realize that enforcement is going to be a problem.
Right.
And once they're tasked with that enforcement, the magnifying glass is going to be on them.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's really messed up because looking at the compliance letters that they send out every month, since August 8th, I think there have been 3 brick and mortar vapor shops that have ended up on that list.
Mm-hmm. Out of
it's
how
not
many? 15?
Yeah, thousands, over 10,000. So the vapor industry has sort of already done the job for them. Everybody who runs a brick and mortar shop, well, maybe not everybody, but I would say nearly all of the people that run a brick and mortar shop in this industry are painfully aware of the scrutiny that they're under, and I think are being extra vigilant in preventing sales to kids. So it's just more of like, wait, you have the existing funding and infrastructure to enforce the Tobacco Control Act. Why all of a sudden this failure? Why, convenience store people come out and they talk about it. Whenever you see any of these hearings where the National Association of Convenience Store folks show up, they will proudly talk about their record of compliance with age verification. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I don't know. Did somebody fall asleep at the FDA and they suddenly don't care? What's the deal?
Yeah, so basically these 11 senators are saying it's the responsibility of the industry to do the FDA's job because the FDA is not doing a good job of enforcing either the FDA or the states are not doing a good job of enforcing the over 18, which is bullshit because, like you said, I would venture to guess that over 90% of the industry is self-policing that aspect anyway.
Yeah.
So let's look at the longer.
And what do you do about parents who buy vapes for their kids because they think, hey, at least they're not smoking cigarettes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would
is it the government's job at that point?
Exactly.
You know, if the CDC is going to come out with all these studies saying all these young kids are vaping, you know, if it's the parents that are buying them their vape gear, you know, but that's not a good PR fight for us either.
I would venture to say it's much easier for a teenager to get their hands on cigarettes than it is vaping devices, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know about that. It's certainly easier for them to get their hands on marijuana.
Well, I would say marijuana or cigarettes. I mean, not to mention for a pack of cigarettes. I mean, if they cost $6, you give someone $10, they go buy you a pack. Yeah, who's going to give someone $20, $30, $40, a teenager, to go buy them a vape setup, you know, or more, and e-liquid. Yeah. So anyway, let's look at the longer term ramifications of this letter. The way that my first thought of it was when I saw that it was 11 U.S. senators. 11. That's 11% of the U.S. Senate. And if we get any meaningful legislation passed at any point in the United States, it's going to take for sure a bipartisan effort. How do you think that this reflects on the chances, or do you think it just sets up a bigger fight at some point in the future when we are moving towards some federal legislation to hopefully reclassify vapor products away from tobacco products? I mean, 11% of the U.S. Senate just sent a letter that is clearly 100% anti-vaping. Maybe that wasn't a good setup. What do you guys think?
I guess I don't really have as gloomy an outlook, you know, as a result of this letter specifically. It seems to me like it's just a bunch of grandstanding. And you know, I can speak to at least 3 of the signatures on there are really from kind of the far left wing of the Democratic Party. So I'm not sure, you know, how much backup they'd get from the rest of the Democrats in the Senate, you know, for this letter. That's not to say they wouldn't vote for anything that, you know, might hurt our industry, but I just don't think that the Senate at large is going to be as anti-vaping as these 11 folks are. That's just my gut reaction.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I think that we learned from the push for Cole Bishop in the budget this year was we're picking up some persuadables. You know, having senators on the fence is good, and we're having Democratic senators on the fence, and so that's an important thing to kind of keep pushing on it, and it's a slow process. And I should preface any talk about legislation by saying legislation is going to be the thing that takes the longest amount of time. You know, and I think, I don't know if it has been made clear, but I have seen comments around the internets about HR 1136 passing, and it should be clear to people that 1136 is very much like what we were doing with 2058 last year. It's a bill that, you know, nobody has any reasonable expectation that it's going to pass as a standalone bill. Instead, it will be language that is inserted into the budget in September, if we get that opportunity. Co-sponsoring it is a way of showing public support for that language. And so that's where the effort is. But standalone legislation passing in time to save the industry. And it doesn't matter how glowing you think, you know, whatever particular piece of legislation is, it's just, this is a very heavy lift. You know, once we're talking about legislation, we're not just talking about culture at the FDA. We get back into that conversation about, you know, the hearts and minds of the general public. And, you know, we're in the minority here.
Mm-hmm. Well, even as the result of a catastrophic event, you know, some bills can get fast tracked, but even then you'll see people trying to, you know, hang riders on it, mm-hmm. you know, trying to take advantage of, you know, the momentum that a particular bill has as a result of a catastrophe. So absolutely, I agree 100% that, you know, it's a potential long-term solution, but legislatively, it's always going to be an uphill fight, and it's always going to take an extended period of time.
Well, I don't think that I think one advantage 1136 had over 2058 is 2058 was the first attempt, and I think now that Cole and Bishop have been at this for a couple of years, I think it has a much better shot of passing than 2058 ever did. So do I think that HR 1136 has a shot of being passed? I do think it has a shot of being passed, but barring that, I'm not going to say it's a great shot, but it has a shot for sure, as long as we keep getting the co-sponsors on board and keep showing the momentum rolling forward, especially with the Democrat side, and now we're up to 7. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. It's huge for a bipartisan supported requirement in a bill. So I do think that 1136 has a shot of passing, but barring that, maybe the language will make it into something in the future, as a rider to something else. But the point is, the predicate date has to be changed as soon as possible. And I was just using the letter as a gauge to see, like, if you guys thought that 11% of the U.S. Senate just sent this letter to Dr. Gottlieb, and then they're clearly saying that they're what their anti-vaping stance is. Do you think that, and Alex kind of answered it already, I guess, that there are some on the fencers who are Democrats who are kind of coming around to the idea of the fact that vaping may be good for the public health, and it might be something to take a closer look at. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom like it was a year or two ago. I think we're making definite progress at the federal level, and I think HR 1136 still has a viable shot. Maybe not, I wouldn't put it over maybe 60%. That's just off the top of my head guess, but it does have a shot, and the language for sure has a shot. Hopefully, being included in something. I don't know though, Alex. You said there are some things you can't talk about, but maybe you can give us some insight from CASAA's perspective on what you guys have been doing, what you can talk about, and how you think things are going to go over the coming months to year.
Well, like I said, the legislative pathway is the longest pathway and it's the most expensive and the most difficult. And I do want to emphasize, I just want to measure people's expectations about 1136, and it is. It's there to, be the public face of, the effort to change the predicate date. And I would love to see it pass as a standalone bill, but it just doesn't have that kind of support. And a lot of bills good. That's why there are so many. That's why there are over 200 riders on the budget, because these are things that won't survive as standalone legislation. And so this is kind of that effort. And I say that knowing that is what the effort is. It's not. I'm not speculating there. The other thing that we're focused on, you may have seen, I think, kind of immediately after Cole Bishop was left out of the budget, I pinned a post on our main Facebook page, which was the writing letters to HHS Secretary Tom Price urging him to delay the regulations. And all of the groups have weighed in on this and sort of gone with our respective efforts at urging Tom Price to delay the regulations for at least 2 years. And then I think last week, I think it was the 17th, Enjoy and Safada and VTA and some other companies all signed on to a citizen petition. And this isn't like the White House petition website that was up during the Obama. I think it's still up during the trial. I don't know if Trump took it down or not. That was worthless, by the way.
Yeah.
And
is this link you're talking about on your Facebook wall that I can put it in the replay?
For the petition?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to dig it up for you. Hold on a second.
It's okay. Just send it to me on Facebook afterwards, and I'll include it in the description. If you're watching on the replay, you'll be able to find it down below, probably sometime tomorrow.
And hopefully, I will drop you the links in advance, but hopefully at some point tomorrow morning or afternoon, you should be getting an email from CASAA about this. So it's just not. It's still in draft form, but we're working on putting something out about this. But yeah, this is a legit thing. This is actually established in the Code of Federal Regulations, and this is a citizen petition, is used for stakeholders to affect changes in regulations after the public comment period has closed. And it's a legit pathway to do this. It ends up on regulations.gov. Anybody can comment on the docket, just like we did during the comment period for the deeming rule. So that's one area that we're going to focus on as well. And that petition also, it asks for actually a little bit more. It asks for final guidance. And, I think what you were talking about, Jay, with the, there's no checklist for a manufacturer to go down and say, I've done this. All my ducks are in a row and I should be compliant, or I should get approval. I have a reasonable expectation that I will be approved. That doesn't exist at all. It's guesswork. It's hit or miss. Mm-hmm. And that's an expensive guess for even one product. So, that's, and I know we've probably talked about this ad nauseum, but that's what's going to knock everybody out of the industry, is that they can't even afford to try. And that's all that they would be doing, is trying.
Right.
So the petition is asking for final guidance for the PMTA pathway. And then once that guidance is published, giving another 24-month grace period for manufacturers to go through that process. So we're potentially looking at a much longer delay through this petition. And actually, to go back to the letter, it's something that I was kind of briefly included in our thing. They mentioned in here that when they were leading up to the FDA carefully crafting this regulation, that they took 7 years. The FDA took 7 years to figure out what they were going to write about this. And when they got done, they gave the industry 2.
Right.
To try to guess what the FDA was going to want for market approval. And I remember I talked to Scott Ely last year at some point, and his thought was, 3 years would have been like the absolute least amount of time someone would need in order to go through this process. So from Jump Street, they didn't give anybody enough time. That's pushing for some sort of administrative delay, administrative relief is really where the focus is going to be. And the Cole-Bishop bill is part of that. It will end up being part of the negotiating later on. That's the bits that I'm not going to get into, but all of this stuff ties together. So these aren't isolated activities here. Everything is going to kind of relate to one another.
Right. Well, what do you think of the? So we haven't had you on in a while, like I said, so you haven't had a chance to be a part of any of our discussions on. But what do you think about the coordination effort that was going on in Wisconsin and may carry over to other localities across the U.S.? What do you think about that? Do you think that that's viable?
I will first of all refer people to the guidance to members that we put out. I think we clearly articulated our concerns with that. And maybe to reiterate, this is something that could be a valuable PR campaign, a valuable PR strategy. I was kind of thinking, after the fact, it would be kind of interesting for people to organize at the local level and show up at, city council hearings, urging city council to pass a resolution condemning the FDA regulations. Mm-hmm. If you had people doing that all across the country and got some media coverage out of that, I think that would be a very interesting and
I think it'd be a really good
effective
PR tool again to combat local and state legislation as well. Because if you start getting a number of cities and small localities, towns, villages, or whatever that are passing these resolutions, then you can say when someone tries to pass something at the state level, your constituents don't want this. Even the cities and the towns and the counties are passing resolutions, in favor of the public health benefits of vaping. So I think that would go a long way, from a PR standpoint, like you said, not just at the federal level, but I think at the state level as well.
Yeah, that's potentially something. I'm not devoting any energy to organizing anything like that right now, but
I
it's an idea, and it's something that people can do for free. I mean, you don't have to pay admission to your city. You don't have to hire a lawyer for your city council hearing, and so that would be interesting to see. The other thing that popped up this, I guess, a few days ago was a bit more explanation into how the coordination strategy actually works. By way of background, a little bit of our questions about the strategy was that coordination has always been used typically in conjunction with some sort of environmental or land, some sort of, earth impact type of regulation. And it hinges on the NEPA,
National
Environmental. Yeah, sorry, I'm bad with that acronym for some reason. So, to apply that to tobacco, I mean, if you're talking about tobacco growers, maybe, it's kind of hard. Making that tie to the environment is kind of a stretch. And so they put something out about how their argument hinges on the known harms of secondhand smoke, and that if you don't allow vapor products to stay on the market, then you're
losing audio.
Keeping people exposed. Can you hear me now?
Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Okay. Then you're keeping people exposed to dangerous levels of secondhand smoke from cigarettes, and that's an environmental quality issue. That's a stretch, especially since I believe most states have some sort of comprehensive indoor smoking law at this point, and a small handful of them have included vaping in them. And so, most places have some sort of smoking policy prohibiting indoor use. And then the other thing is that particular reasoning is trading on the fears of secondhand smoke. People should realize that, yes, I have heard accounts and seen, studies of people who have developed things like asthma and COPD and life-threatening situations from sort of above normal exposure to secondhand smoke. It does happen, but since we're talking about population level type threats, the harms of secondhand smoke have been blown out of proportion, especially in the outdoor environment. So it's trading on that myth and the fear of secondhand smoke that is wildly inappropriate. And to think that wouldn't get thrown back in our face as vapors, it has, and it will be again. Yeah. So it's interesting. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
It's yeah.
I just want to go on record. I firmly believe that Alex is in the same camp as I am when it comes to that stuff.
Well, let's get a. We've got about 5 minutes left or so before we need to say our goodbyes for the hour. So just real quickly, what should consumers be doing right now from CASAA's perspective? What should they be focusing on? Because a lot of consumers have questions about what can they do. So what's CASAA's direction for them anyway?
Right now, the current engagement that we have is writing letters to Secretary Tom Price, and because he is, Secretary of HHS, we need to do this by hand. We don't have a point-and-click kind of engagement for this, and we have that template up on our website. If you go to our website and just search Price, you can find that engagement, download the pre-written letter, or you can write your own letter and find his address information right there and mail it into him. It's pretty easy, and we're just encouraging people to share their stories and ask that these products not be taken away from us, and urge him to delay, the compliance deadlines by 2 years. And the other thing is, it's scheduled tomorrow. You'll be hearing more about the citizen petition.
Okay.
And then, the other thing is definitely now more than ever, pay attention to your local lawmakers. We didn't get into California too much, but briefly, if anybody hasn't heard this yet, there are flavor bans in San Francisco, an extreme all-out flavor ban, and California it's been really difficult to get people motivated to engage on this. If people don't think that they're coming for your flavors, you're dead wrong. They are coming for flavors. They're coming for menthol.
I think the problem in California is that most vapors have moved on to spinners at this point.
I think the real problem is that people can buy anything they want to off the internet. So yeah. I think the people of San Francisco or different places, but what they don't realize is that if that ban passes in a city like San Francisco, and how big of an impact it'll have on cities in their state. Mm-hmm. So it may come to a city near you if it happens there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be complacent.
Yep.
And then finally, I've seen a lot over the past couple of years about, unity and the various advocacy organizations quibbling about this and that. It seems to me that things have gotten much better over the past 6 months. What is your take on that? With inter-advocacy agency, whatever you want to call it, collaboration.
Cooperation. I get them all mixed up. One of them gets into kind of legal terms. Yeah.
With collaboration between the various organizations, how has that been going of late?
Very good. I find myself, on seems to be a more regular basis in face-to-face meetings with people from the other associations. And at the federal level, VTA and SFATA, and then that kind of trickles down to the various state organizations. So, and we've, enjoyed a relationship with several of the state associations in that, when something pops up, I will either reach out to them to see what they're doing and where they need help, or they'll reach out to us and say they need help. Mm-hmm. So there actually has been quite a bit of cooperation amongst the groups, and we are all pretty much on the same page in terms of where the strategy needs to go.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good news for the industry as a whole, I think.
I'm seeing that at the state level as well. Yep. I mean, just as an example, the newly reforming Mass Smoke Free Association here in Massachusetts is actually reaching out to the Connecticut SFATA chapter because of the great work that they're doing, as well as in Rhode Island. The SFATA chapter there in Rhode Island has been doing really good work. Whereas before there was always a SFATA MASFA, punch you in the face, like get out of my hair and quit talking shit about me kind of attitude. There definitely seems to be a push to, smooth over those individual personalities who've been creating ruckuses.
Well, I think aside from the debacle that happened in Utah with the state. One of the state leaderships there for SFATA. I think the bringing on of Pamela Gorman was a great decision for SFATA.
Absolutely.
And I think that Tony Abood with VTA does a great job of working with, and you guys at CASAA as well, but I'm talking about the industry organization. I think they're doing a much, much better job of understanding that their roles and their actions, or their lack of actions in some cases, affect us in this industry, both from a consumer and business standpoint, dramatically. So I think I'm glad to see it. I think it's very, very good to see.
I will say I'm not entirely convinced that Tony sleeps.
Yeah, me either.
So.
Vampire in the daylight.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Alex, it's been great having you on again. We'll certainly have you back at some point in the near future, hopefully, and we can, continue discussing how things are progressing. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us, especially on short notice.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching live and you haven't hit that like button yet, please make sure you do that before we take off. And if you're watching on a replay, also feel free to hit the like button, share the link, get the good information out there to other vapors, tag vapors and smokers in it, let them know what's going on, tag your elected officials, let them know what's going on. Jay, any closing thoughts?
Nah.
Well,
you don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something.
Get involved. That's right. That's coming up in just a second. Stay tuned. If you guys are interested, if there's any business owners interested who want to come to the Tampa event that we're doing next month, this is VCC Live, by the way. VCC stands for Vaping Convention Circuit. If it weren't for Vaping Convention Circuit, we wouldn't be able to bring you this program. So if you're interested in attending June 24th and 25th at the Florida State Fairgrounds, you can email me at admin@vapingcc.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you and get you signed up for the event. It's shaping up to be a really, really good event. Hopefully we can have CASAA there. I know that they're spending their money not as much on travel lately, but maybe we can find a way to get them out there and talk to you guys and consumers about what you can do to get involved. So that's it. That's my last plug. See you guys all next week. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something. Get involved.
Hey, that's mine.